Hi, this is Patricia Stepper with Your Inside Power, where we help you to live from the inside out so that you can get the most of your lifestyle. Today, I have a very special guest coming to us from Hawaii, and her name is Megan Nolan. So, Megan, thank you and welcome to our program today.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
One of the things here at Inside Power, we try to get people to realize that they have energy within them and that they have power inside of them that maybe they really haven't discovered yet. And so what I would like to do is, could we just talk about maybe how we can have energy within us? Let's just start with energy. How do you define energy? Because I did a show last week talking about how I define energy and how important it is. But let's hear what you think.
I define energy as that zest for life, that feeling of excitement and readiness and feeling lit up from the inside out. And I believe that everything has an energy to it. Things outside of us, we can see their energy. Within us, we can sometimes see it, on our face or in the way that we're walking or holding ourselves. But oftentimes within, it's that energy that we can see, we can feel, but we can't necessarily see within ourselves. And so it's a beautiful force that connects us all.
When you say about seeing the energy, I was just, I picked up some lunch today. And as I was picking it up, I was watching the workers, and there were these two workers. Now, one had a mask on, so I really couldn't see her face, but the other gentleman did not. And I could just see his energy and could feel it, that he really enjoyed what he was doing and serving others. And I think that's so important because, just me standing there watching him, I could feel his energy and I could see his energy. And I think what we need to realize is that when people are looking at us, what kind of energy are they picking up from us?
That's huge. And I love that he was preparing your food with that because, that's obviously in the air and what's going into your food as well. And so I believe you're so right. It's so important because a lot of what we are communicating to others actually is nonverbal. And it comes from the way that you're holding yourself. It comes from your posture. And we actually, whether we realize it or not, or whether we like it or not, we make a lot of judgments about people based on their posture, the way that they're carrying themselves. And so that's really important for us to remember because that's going to impact how people are interacting with us. But it's also really important to remember because it actually impacts what your brain is experiencing, because your body and mind, obviously very much interconnected, but the way you hold yourself impacts what your brain is registering as what it thinks is happening. So this is called embodied physiology. So your posture affects your mood and your mood affects your posture. And so this is so important for us to remember because we're both doing it right now. And maybe some listeners and watchers are doing it later. We sit a lot. And it's very easy for us to get into a very rounded posture. And something that, very likely we could all agree on and do rather quickly is if I asked you to show me or tell me about the posture of someone who's sad, we'd all go to a fairly similar expression. It's that defeated, sort of shrunk, compacted, restricted, heart closed off, shoulders forward, head forward posture, which is actually the one we all spend a lot of time in when we sit and we slouch over the keyboard. So it's really important for us to be aware of how we're holding ourselves throughout the workday because it will send signals up to your brain. And whether or not you're feeling that way, it might start to register like, oh, I'm not sure what's the matter right now, but we're definitely in that sort of sad, stressed posture. We're not breathing well. I don't know what's going on, but your brain starts to create some cascades of hormones that go back and forth. And so it's really important for us to remember that going back into strong posture is so powerful and so healing for activating the energy within and tapping back into that and tapping back into your power so you can fully express it in an authentic way.
I think it's also really good to get up and move around sometimes. When you're starting to feel that lack of energy, just get up and move. And, it's kind of, I'm sure it does something for us physically also, but it just makes our mood better when we, physically move.
100% for a million reasons. You're so right. And it's really one of the fastest ways that we have to change our inner state, because when we sit down, everything kind of slows down, drops down, everything starts to shift after about 30 minutes of sitting. So getting up and moving is a really natural and very quick way for us to get a boost of energy. And so when your muscles are activated, there's more blood flow, which means that energy within, or prana or chi or whatever word you like to use, is moving more easily throughout your body, which also includes your brain, right? So when we're sitting and we're slouching and we're not breathing well, we're taking those short, shallow, stressed breaths, your brain starts to like get that sense of, I'm tired, I don't know, maybe I should go on Facebook and see what's happening over there, you know, and that mindless scrolling. And so if you get up, and I like to do shaky breaks. So anytime I go to the washroom before I come back to the desk or the computer, I intentionally close my eyes. I do a little shake, you know, kind of like imagine your dog just had a bath and they're kind of shaking it off, and just wiggle your body or do whatever feels good. Or maybe you have a little dance. You just intentionally take a pause and reset, come back to your breath, come back to who you're being, how you can bring your body back into balance, and then go back about your way. And we can do that so quickly, right? It doesn't have to be a big drawn out affair unless you want it to be. If you want to take a, you know, hour-long yoga break or whatever, that works. But it can be so quick, but it's that intentionality behind it that's so important, that you're coming back to that power within, to that place within that is your center.
You know, Megan, something I've read and heard in a couple different places is that there's, and some people say 10,000, I've heard up to 50,000 thoughts that go around your mind every day. And so I tell my clients, you know, sometimes when you get up in the morning, you know, and you don't feel good, you know, you feel like, oh, what's wrong? You know, a lot of times it's those thoughts that have been spinning have been rather negative overnight. And, you know, we have to make that shift. But also during the day, that can happen. You know, you make a few phone calls and maybe nobody's answering, or maybe somebody turns you down for a sale that you thought you were going to get, or whatever the case might be. You know, something goes wrong during the day. How can we, you know, at those moments, just kind of reset what's going on in our lives so that we can keep moving forward and have the success that we want that day?
That's a great question. And I totally relate to that. And I know many of your listeners do. We all, you know, have those challenges and those moments, and waking up in the morning and having them running in our head. So a morning routine is really powerful for that. But also, as you said, it can be very insidious throughout the day. It either creeps in or it just happens and you're like, oh, there it is again. And so that's when that powerful pause is so, so important and so impactful. And so there's really three questions that when you find yourself in that, and you already highlighted this, but just to bring it back to people's awareness, is awareness of it and recognition of, oh, there it is again. And when we feel negative emotion in our body and in our heart, we can almost guarantee that some of that story is running, or we're focusing on something that is not in the direction that we want to go. So bringing the awareness to it and just recognizing that, and then doing something in that moment that will bring you back into a place of presence. Because when that happens, we're in a part of the brain that is part of the fight or flight mechanism that takes us into stress. But when you do something that grounds you into your body, it soothes your nervous system, and it helps to activate the higher functions of your brain, which is where you have those brilliant ideas in that direction and the more positive emotions. So there's three questions to ask yourself when you want to reset. So the first one is, where is my breath? So we can do that right now. So if it's safe for you to do so, just close your eyes. If you're driving, obviously, please keep your eyes open. But asking yourself that question, where is my breath? And sense it. You're sensing for the answer. You don't want a logical mind answer. You want the answer to come from your body or your heart. And then the second question is, who am I being right now? And that again is emanating from the heart space rather than the logical, oh, I'm being Megan, I'm being Patty. Am I being happy? Am I being worried? Am I being positive? Am I being optimistic? Who am I being? And then the third question is, what can I do to bring myself back into balance right now? And sometimes if you're feeling that frantic, spinning, worried, wondering, then what we do to bring ourselves back into balance is something more calming or grounding, or, you know, anchoring you down, going for a walk, having a bath, whatever it is. Or sometimes if you're just like flat out, I'm so exhausted, I don't know what to do, then we do something that elevates your energy. So there's multiple different ways you can take the pause, but it's really based on those three questions, which are essentially based on the three pillars of breath, being, and balance.
I know one of the things that you specialize in is helping busy women. And I do believe that we have a lot of busy women because we juggle so many things. Let's be honest, you know, women, if you're a mom, if you have, family things you have to do or take the kids someplace and you have a full-time job, it can get really overwhelming.
Mhm.
And so I know that that's one of the things that you really work with is with helping women who um, are trying to find that way to relax a little throughout the day. What kind of advice would you give for them?
One key piece that is echoed through a lot of different genres and tool sets and disciplines is the importance of a morning routine. And again, that can be moments or seconds. If you have a lot of little ones that are ready for your attention, or if you have 20 minutes, half an hour, then you can stretch it out or longer than that, right? But it's really about that intentionality of how you're starting the day so that you are aligned on every level. And so, yes, from the energetic sense of alignment, but that has core ingredients to it. And that's alignment in your physical body. Because if you're in that rounded, ouchy, slouchy posture, because you've been sleeping, you're a side sleeper, right? We wake up and we go right to the desk. We're in that same posture. So if you're back in strong alignment physically, that kickstarts everything. Literally, it lights your inner fire, revs up your metabolism, it oxygenates your brain, strengthens your muscles to help you hold that strong, confident posture, right? Back to what we were initially talking about, so that you are set and ready for the day. And again, that doesn't have to be a long go. 5 minutes is great. You can do a lot in 5 minutes. So really intentionally aligning your body, but then also your heart, right? What is it that you get to work on today? Oftentimes we get into this, oh, I have to do this, and there's so many things I have to do. And of course, we all have obligations and there's things that you want to accomplish, but it's a shift of going from I have to I get to, and doing the things that are going to help you to feel like you're taking steps forward. Because if we get in that overwhelmed sensation of, oh, there's so many things that I'm not moving forward, and that taking that spiral of indecision can happen rather quickly. So from that place of alignment, deciding, all right, what are my 3 top priorities today? What am I going to take action on? And when we accomplish things, and quite literally, even if you don't write a physical list or maybe use an app or something on your phone, having it written down somewhere or logged somewhere that you can cross it off, or show yourself you're checking it off, is actually a bit of a brain hack. Because when you're doing that, your brain says, yay me, look at us go. And so we get a release of dopamine, which then increases more motivation. And so it's that little rewards. And something fun that I do, and especially for moms in the group, but I like this for all adults, is learning to give ourselves more gold stars. Literally, I give my clients gold stars, and this is why I have this silly thing, is because it can be really easy for us to forget to celebrate. And it's so important. And so that's a kind of a nice way to start the day, and really just celebrating that. Because then again, even if it was 2 minutes, or it was literally like, I sat down and I took 3 deep breaths before I started my day, that's amazing. It's totally worth celebrating, right? So that we're not starting the day in that like frantic, critical state. It's that centered state that really is that powerful place to begin the day.
And I think that's really important because the clients I have, I like to track them and I like them to track themselves because, so often we get through I'll just say the day-to-day grind, the doing things day in, day out, and we forget how much we've accomplished and how far we've come in a month, in 6 months, in a year. And so sometimes we look back and we feel like we haven't done anything because maybe we didn't reach that ultimate goal yet. But when you look back, you can see the progress that you've made. And the whole thing about, hitting a goal is the journey that you're on. And
Mhm.
sometimes we think that unless we actually hit that goal on the date that we choose, which is not necessarily what the universe says is possible for us, but if
Mhm.
we don't hit that, we feel like a failure. And yet we have to realize we're on this wonderful journey called life, and that it's just having one successful day after another. So how does that relate to what you do with your clients?
It's identically aligned with what I do, because it's really, I like people to track when they do their yoga or when they do their workout, so that they can look back. Because as you said, and it's so easy for us, we're hardwired to just remember the faults and the flaws and the negativity bias. And so it's easy. And the Buddha said, in a field of 1,000 flowers, all we will remember is the snake. And so it's easy for us to look back and say, well, yeah, I tried to do this and I tried to do that and I didn't do this. And whereas if we're logging the celebrations, or in your calendar, in your day planner, if you're putting on your gold stars, or you're writing down your accomplishments for the month and really reflecting on an ongoing basis, it's quite nice. And it's a nice thing to do, because then it allows us to see the progress and to take a look back and reflect. Because yes, as much as we want to get to the top of the mountain, whether the mountain is like a figurative, climbing Kilimanjaro or something like that, or if your mountain is having a home in Spain or whatever it is the evolution and the progress along the way that allows us to see what we have truly achieved. Because yes, the big outcome is obviously very satisfying, but it's who we become in the process that's really the ultimate goal and the ultimate gold in all of it.
So how do you deal? Let me give you an example. So yesterday, I got up, I went on a walk. It was over 2 miles long. I felt great. I was very energetic and got to work and was very excited. This morning I woke up, I was not feeling well and I did not go. It was a choice not to go on a walk because I felt like I needed a little more rest. And, it was like a struggle then to get myself motivated moving. So how do you deal with that with the client?
That's a great question, because that, again, it totally happens to all of us. And so there are going to be ebbs and flows. I think it's really important to make note of, on the days when you do something that makes you feel really great, like your walk yesterday, to either mentally or physically write it down, how that day went for you, so that on days when you're not feeling like going for the walk per se, then we can look back and say, oh yeah, yesterday when I did do that, I did feel amazing. I was really on point. I felt on fire for the rest of the day. And so honoring the fact that you needed the rest, and that's beautiful. Remembering that yesterday after you did the walk, how great you felt. There might be time today to sneak in a little walk, now that you're feeling a little more alert and energized and ready for the day, or needing a little more energy to continue the day, as the case may be. There's ways that you can play with it, right? And a lot of times we get into this is how it has to be because I created this routine and derp, derp, derp. And if I can't do that, it's all gone to pot and it's no good anyways, right? And so having that flexibility and that patience with ourselves and the willingness to kind of play with it a little bit, just recognizing that it all adds up, it all is impactful, and there's going to be ebbs and flows with all of it, but coming back to that place of, how did you feel after, and how would you like to feel today? And what you can do to get into that state might be going for a little walk and just kind of reframing it a little bit.
And I love how you say that, ebbs and flows, because I sometimes tell clients we can't always feel like super great about everything, because if we always felt up there, we wouldn't know what it would feel like if you didn't feel super great. And it's the key is, like you said, to get off that time when you're not feeling good, when you're feeling a little low, and what can you do to make yourself feel better? And I think a key is not to beat yourself up, because so often, because we do live in this very negative world, it's very easy to, go towards that negative and try to beat ourselves up when things are not going well, or when we do something that, we think is wrong, or we, should have done better or known better. And, so how do you, kind of walk those clients back off that cliff when they're feeling like, they've maybe had day after day where they haven't done what they needed to do and they need to get back on track?
You're right. And recognizing that that is totally normal. And it does come back to that awareness of what tends to happen. And when we're feeling that negative emotion and the frustration, is reconnecting to your vision, reconnecting to why we got started with any of this in the first place. And it might be the routine, it might be the business, it might be what have you. And so that's a really great time to press pause and I like to take people back into a guided visualization and reconnecting to the goals that you've set for yourself, the impact goals, the income goals, but also the ripple effect that what you do and how you do the way you do it has on the world, so that we can reconnect to that energy and that emotion, because everything we do, we're doing because we want to feel a certain way. So tapping back into that as your North Star will allow you to remember, okay, this is why I got started. This is why it's important to me, because I do want to achieve these things. Allowing you that moment to reconnect, because it's easy, as you said, to get caught in that downward spiral. And so it's that pattern interrupt, that intentional pause, that reflection opportunity. And then we get to say, okay, maybe that way wasn't working. And maybe that's why it hasn't kind of fallen into your path for the day. What can we look at to recalibrate? What was working with that? So what can we bring forward, and being willing to be flexible with it, right? It is yoga after all, and exercise. So be flexible with it and look at, okay, let's try maybe a shorter workout, or maybe let's try it at a different sort of day. Because again, you know, especially if we have any sort of perfectionist tendencies, I'll just put my hand up. We expect that it should be perfect on the first go, and then we're not willing to have that sort of flex with it. So reconnecting to the North Star, reconnecting to that vision that you have for yourself, and remembering that it's really all about how you feel and who you're being in those moments, so that you can come back to that awareness of that importance, and how, you know, it's easy for us to get caught up in the busyness of life and really just making that intentional decision to prioritize how you're feeling, because it's such a easy spiral for us to get caught up in the do, but who you're being in those moments is really the most important. And so just taking a step back and reflecting it's a good time for that.
Okay, so you've mentioned that word awareness a couple times, and to me, awareness is everything, because we can't change who we are unless we're aware that there's something better and that we need to do something different. But you've also talked about yoga, and just explain to our guests, because I love yoga. And it was so funny because my son played baseball, and when he was in high school, one of his friends did some yoga, and I tried to get him to do yoga with me. And he was like, oh no, I'm not doing yoga. And then he went to college and they had to do yoga. So if professional or collegiate athletes find yoga important, tell us why yoga is so important to the body and what it can do for us as far as helping us to be more motivated throughout the day.
Great question. And I love that he's doing it.
Well, he did do it. I don't know if he's doing it now, but he did do it when he was in college. Yes.
Okay. Well, I love that he was open to it, you know, maybe not right from his mom, but you know, if the other guys are doing it, you obviously saw the benefit, and that you're doing it. That's incredible. So I will take a step back and say that a lot of times people are intimidated by yoga because of what we see on social media. So I will just ease your fears and let you know that it is not attempting you to turn into Cirque du Soleil acrobat or some sort of pretzel. All of those are tools to really ultimately cultivate awareness. And that's what yoga is at its core essence. That's one of the pillars of using these different tools, whether it's the stretches that we're doing, the breathing exercises, the hand postures, whatever, is to learn to bring your mind to a point of stillness and focus, which is, in my opinion, one of the hardest things for any of us to do. Because as you mentioned earlier, there's loads of thoughts ongoing, pretty much every split second, there's something happening in your brain. And so it's challenging. And that's why we have you do these poses of okay, now stand on one foot and breathe. Now relax your face, maybe smile a little bit. Oh, relax your shoulders, and so there's all these little details, which I think makes yoga something so perfect for our busy world, even though it's thousands of years old and was, designed in such a different way. But the applicability is here now, because the truth of it is to bring your body, yourself, and all the layers of your being. So your body, your mind, your spirit, your energy, your heart, all of that, we view it as one beautiful component, or flower with many petals, if you will. Bringing all of that back to a state of balance and center. And so the beauty of it is the way the intelligent design of it is that when we hold a posture, one side of the joint, so for example, I'm, have my arms out, one side of the joint is engaged, the muscles are engaged to support that position. On the opposite side, the muscles are stretching and opening. And then we go the other way, so that now the muscles that we're strengthening are getting stretched and the opposite muscles are getting strengthened. So you're creating a very beautiful balance, the ultimate balance of both stability, holding the pose, being able to hold the structure with integrity, and mobility and freedom and ease in movement. So we create that in the body so that you can know it in your heart, so that you can hold that energy or whatever it is and be able to come back to it, right? And be able to flow with it. So really that's the core essence of it, is coming back to center, coming back to a place of presence within yourself, so that you're aware when you're off center and you can recalibrate, right? So yes, it's all well and good for you to be able to stand on one foot, and has amazing benefits for your bones and your muscles and your hormones and your sleep, and I could go on forever. But what it's training you to do is to be able to come back to center when you wiggle and wobble, because inevitably we know that will happen, whether you're standing on one foot or you're going live on Facebook and there's tech issues, or your email, whatever's, there will be moments, but it's really training you to come back to that presence. That's ultimately yoga, at least in my opinion.
So when you're talking about that, I can see that there's maybe benefits for, let's say, those over 50 to do yoga to try to keep that balance, since that's so important. Do you see that with different clients that you work with, the benefits that they have?
Oh, 100%. And that's at every age. The quality of our life is determined by our ability to move well. And so if we are in that restrictive posture, whether that's the ouchy slouchy posture, or if we're not moving well and we're kind of moving towards that posture of aging that we see quite a bit, bringing your body back into strong posture creates strength and stability in the muscles, but also flexibility in the tissue. So you can bend over and pick up your sock and not be worried that you're not going to be able to get back up or you'll fall. And so building that balance, building the strength, building the bone density, which is also very important, is so pivotal and key throughout the lifespan. But especially as we age, as women, we see a lowering in bone density rather quickly. And that's why any sort of strength training, and it doesn't have to be like, you're pumping iron, standing on one foot and holding your body is strength training. And that's so important for all of us to be able to do that, because it gives that sense of, yes, balance and stability and strength, but competence and confidence in your ability to do that and to walk with confidence, so that you're not worried that you might stumble or trip or fall. So it really does create that inner strength and inner knowing, but then that has beautiful ripple effects into all areas of our life.
So how much time does it take in a day to do some yoga to really see some benefit from it? Like, how many, does it take 15 minutes or an hour, or,
That's a great question. And it's variable. The idea is to have it be more frequently, because doing it for 2 hours every 2 months isn't really going to be as beneficial as if you do multiple times throughout the week. So ideally, we're looking towards 15 minutes to a half an hour or more if you have it. But literally, to be honest, within 10 seconds of standing on your feet and loading up your joints, your bones start to get stronger. Obviously, if you only do it for 10 seconds, there's only a little bit of increase, but if you do it for 10 minutes, it's beneficial. So the ideal, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is something that maybe every hour you could just set your Fitbit or your Apple Watch or something to remind you to get up and do a little strength training. Is that ideal if you did it multiple times throughout a day for just a little bit?
For sure. I mean, everything adds up. Absolutely. Ideally, you have something in the morning to get everything revved up and energized, but then little incremental sessions throughout the day, taking little yoga breaks on an hourly basis, is not only beneficial for your energy, your focus, your creativity, your mood, but definitely for your body as well. That's a great idea. And that's definitely something I recommend to my clients too.
Megan, if people want to get in touch with you, how would they reach out to you to see what help you could give them, as far as both the strengthening but also the mental impact that it will have on them?
Absolutely. So if you go to giftfrommegan.com, then there's a energy fix blueprint that you can grab, and you can take a little mini yoga break whenever it works for you. And that's a great way to get in touch with me and ask any questions that you have about anything I shared today or anything about the blueprint. And then, of course, if you're interested, we can set up a time to create a customized mini break for you, so that works for your body, so that you can learn how to integrate that into your busy day and your busy schedule. So again, that was from Megan.com. So you can grab the free energy fix blueprint.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. And again, if you want to reach out to Megan, go to giftfrommegan.com and you'll get a free blueprint, and then you can find how to get in touch with her. And I appreciate you being here with us on your Inside Power, because yoga is just another thing that can help us increase our power. Thanks again, Megan.
Thank you for having me.